The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hello.
Hey, Jack, it's Ralph Tyko.
How you doing, Ralph?
Little New York Yankee baseball, and this is kind of a rough week, so thank you for indulging me as a Yankee fan. Are the wheels coming off?
No, I think, the last four nights they've got it together and stuff. I mean, they're winning the games they should win, and the encouraging thing is the starting pitching is doing exactly what you want it to do. I mean, Lynn pitched 7 innings the other night, and CC pitched 5 2/3 innings and had 13 strikeouts, and Severino went 7 innings, and Happ went 6 innings tonight. So after the Boston Massacre, Red Sox style instead of Yankee
that next
style.
day against the White Sox, that was about as clutch a game as they've played all year, because they could have just given up the ship right then. And so I'm glad you're responding that way, and that's pretty cool. All right, let's go around the horn a little bit and see what's happening, starting with the catcher. Mr. Sanchez is still on the DL. When is he scheduled to come off? And what's the story with his hamstring?
Well, the thing is, Ralph, I haven't even heard anything. I mean, there's been no reports of him working out in Tampa or anything. I mean, I don't know what's going on. I mean, as of early today, I haven't heard anything.
He wasn't suspended. He wasn't punished in any way. He was just optioned out, and it was the first that anybody had heard about a real hamstring problem that would cause the DL. So is it something going on? Are they punishing him?
It's really hard to say, Ralph. I know he's had issues in the minor leagues. He's gotten sat down a few times, but I don't know if you really want to punish him too much, because you need his bat in the lineup.
Absolutely, especially with Judge being hurt.
Yeah, I mean, you're missing your 2 bats, and you can see, like, when you don't have Sanchez and Judge in the lineup. I mean, Romine does a nice job, and Higashioda, but they're not the power threats that Sanchez is, and, they definitely missed that bat.
Romine, on the other hand, might be a little bit better defensively at this point in their careers.
Well, Romine can handle it defensively, and he gets some hits, but he don't have the power that Sanchez has, and Higashioda is a good defensive catcher, and he's got power, but there's hardly any bats in the major leagues like Sanchez from the catcher position.
No question, which leads us to a discussion about the number of sub 200 below the Mendoza line regulars playing in the big leagues. There are something like 41, 45 maybe guys, changes day to day, guys hitting below, regular guys. They don't take them out. They're hitting below 200. And it really typifies how the game has changed to home run or nothing at all. Strikeouts don't matter. What do you think about that? Am I off base?
No, I mean, the mindset has just changed. I mean, years ago, if you struck out, that was a bad thing. But nowadays, they don't think nothing of it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, take the Yankees the other night when they beat the White Sox. The Yankees struck out 20 guys.
Right. That's craziness. You would be talking, and that would have 10 years ago. A team strikes out 20 players, that would have made the headlines of the day. Yankees combined to strike out 20 pale hose, this, that, and the other thing. Now it just doesn't matter anymore. I think the gist of the game has been damaged. I think not getting guys into scoring position, not giving it up, not hitting to right, not learning to bunt, not being able to cross up the shift. Can you imagine if they tried to shift Tony Gwynn or Rod Carew? They'd hit 500.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a shame you don't see the player like, a Phil Rizzuto anymore, or, even a Dustin Pedroia is going out of style. And, they all want these big power guys and stuff.
Yeah, well, that's a reflection of it.
Mickey Rivers and guys like that.
Right. Richie Ashburn used to lead off and make something happen. Or Ricky Henderson, for crying out loud. Even guys that weren't known as great ball players could take a team and manufacture runs. I'll give you a good example. Was a guy we had out here with the A's a while back in the dynasty years, a guy named Angel Manguel.
I remember him, the outfielder.
Little outfielder. I think he had a brother, Pepe Manguel.
Yeah.
But there's nothing else going on in my head except trivial minutia. So I came up with that. But there was a guy who could get on base, steal a base, bunt to get on every now and again, and just set the table. We don't hear that expression anymore where guys are, you got Aaron Judge batting second in the Yankees when he plays, in the Yankees lineup. So they don't have the traditional get on, move them over, get the power hitters up there, that type of thing. The game has changed. And
well, another name you remember from the A's, Billy North. There was another player.
Absolutely. Talked about him earlier on. Came over from the Cubs. Did an A's show earlier in the day with Jerry Feidelberg. And we talked about how North came over. I think he came over with Holtzman. Traded, his name escapes me, the guy who saved the American flag. Do you remember that?
Rick Monday.
Yeah, Rick Monday, who happened to be the first draftee in the free agent draft when it was established in 1965. Rick Monday was drafted number 1 and came up with the A's with Campaneris and those guys and was traded for Holtzman. And I was trying to remember with Jerry if Billy North was in that trade or not, but he was a perfect example of a guy who can get on. In the old days, it was guys like Billy Bruton who would lead off, and just the game has changed in that way. But so as that we don't sound like a couple of old codgers going, hey, the game was better in my day, this, that, and the other thing. I'll tell you what wasn't better in my day, and that was defense. I marvel, and every day I see get up, MLB network, and I turn that on, and they go over the great defensive plays of the previous day and night. And I think to myself, are they playing the season's best plays or last night's best plays? Because they have guys doing things defensively, and I'll name a few of them that stand out in my mind. Lindor of the Indians, Arenado, of the third baseman with Colorado, Chapman out here, a third baseman. Unbelievable plays night after night, and outfielders the same. From Mookie Betts on down, we got some great defense. And I'll tell you something: if you want to talk a defensive ball player, a very sound defensive ball player for the Yankees, that's Aaron Judge. If you take his arm into consideration, he is a top-notch right fielder, and they are missing him, and I just hope they can keep it together enough until he comes back. And, the Red Sox have not had a bad streak as far as I know, as far as I can remember. So they're about due, and I'd just like to see them keep it together until they get some of these guys back.
Well, the thing is, Ralph, the schedule favors them. They have a big 10-game home stand now, and they play like the White Sox a lot, and they play the Taggers, and they got Texas and stuff. So, and Minnesota. So the schedule favors them. If they play decent ball, and they got a 7-game lead over Seattle for the playoffs, and right. Oakland's right behind them. But Seattle and the A's play like 10 more times, so they'll be beating each other up and stuff. And Judge is taking outfield practice, but he hasn't started hitting yet.
Okay, now is the bone? It wasn't a hamate bone, was it?
I don't believe so, but they say when you look in the dugout, he's like favoring a little. He's been fielding, he's been catching fly balls and fielding. He hasn't been doing any throwing or hitting, but he's still working out. And there's no report of, when he's going to start hitting off a tee or anything. And the same thing with Clint Frazier. I haven't heard anything about him either.
I just want to inject something. Sabathia can be a Hall of Famer down the line. He is really surprising this year, and if you look at his his numbers back with Milwaukee and what have you, he could be making a case for himself if he puts together a good run at the end of this year and has one more solid year, especially if he leads them to a championship next year. There's something to be said for considering him.
Well, Ralph, he's got about 250 wins, and he's had some big years. He was the guy like the Indians picked up, and I think even the Brewers, and when the Yankees won the series in 2009, he was like the big gun,
right?
And he deserves a lot of credit for changing from a power pitcher to a finesse pitcher, and he's right on the cusp there of the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so I appreciate the work he's doing, and I also appreciate the fact that Tanaka, who's nursing a shoulder that could go for shoulder elbow that might go for Tommy John surgery someday, he's managed to keep it together.
Yeah, they were worried beginning of last year, the arm could go, but he's learned how to pitch with it. He don't throw as many fastballs, and he's just been, he's been terrific. He's just been what they needed because, the pitching staff was having a tough go of it there for a while.
Right. What do you think of the deals they made? Were you happy overall at the trading deadline?
Yeah, getting Happ and Lynn, they really needed those guys. And so far they've done exactly what they wanted them to do. You come in, you give 5, 6, 7 innings, give up 2, 3 runs at the most, and keep your team in the game. And, the guys they give up, Drury went to the Blue Jays, and I just heard he broke I think he broke his wrist. And, so they made good moves. Cashman's really done a terrific job.
Yes, not just this year, 20 years. Just to have survived for 20 years in New York City, the bulk of them under the boss, the original Steinbrenner. Got to give him a lot of credit. Another future Hall of Famer right there.
Well, I think, Ralph, since George's sons took over, Cashman has more of a free rein.
Right.
And he's done a better job the last couple of years when you don't have George looking over his shoulder. And, I mean, they got good people working there. I mean, Stick Michael deserves a lot of credit for the Yankees' success. And, they ain't had a losing season since 1992, and, that's no accident.
Fun to be a Yankee fan, I'll bet, says the Mets fan. Yeah. So life isn't easy. Hey, Jack, terrific show. I am happy to have you as a contributor, and we'll be back before you know it.
Well, thanks for everything, Ralph, and call anytime. Always love to talk baseball.
Beautiful. Jack Degraw, New York Yankee Baseball, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. We'll be back again next week about this time. So hang in there. Thanks for listening, everybody. Adios.
Good night.
Good night, Jack.
Hello?
Hey, Robert, I hope I didn't disturb you.
No, it's okay.
You got
I'm good.
a few minutes, we'll do a little Yankees?
Yeah.
All right, let's take a beat here. 1,
Okay.
2, 3. We are back. New York Yankee Baseball. I've got Robert Deininger with me for an update. And how you doing, Robert?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm slowly getting over the weekend we had with the Red Sox.
Oh,
to
yeah,
me,
but they came back so nicely against the White Sox after that.
Yeah, and they won tonight against the Rangers to make it 4 in a row. But that 4-game series getting swept, that was
a kick.
They got the work cut out for them. And I think they're 2.5 games ahead of the Oakland A's for the wild card spot, for the top spot.
Is all, and I'm out here in Northern California, and I can tell you that this has been a Cinderella season for the A's.
Yeah, you got to give the A's credit. I mean, wow.
Yeah, they lost like 4 out of 5 of their starting pitchers to the DL, and they have scrapped together a bunch of guys, some of them old retreads, Cahill, Anderson, who had early success with the A's before getting hurt, Austin Jackson, Fears comes from Milwaukee, gives him a good outing last night. So they're Cinderella all the way, and they're young and scrappy and fun to watch. But at the expense of the Yankees, if you look at their payroll, dollar for dollar, it's no comparison, of course.
No.
I want to ask you this: in the deals the Yankees made, they got Hop and Lynn, good solid help down the line. Did they go over the cap?
Actually, no, they didn't. They're right below it, and they're good. They won't be affected by the luxury tax.
Oh, that's
which means
good.
They'll be able to go out next year and sign some or spend some money on some big time free agents. But yeah, they're still below the luxury tax threshold.
Now, again, I'll just state the obvious. I can't believe that the Players Association gave way to a soft cap. Just surprises the hell out of me.
Okay.
But that's the way it is. That's the bargaining agreement. I think MLB won big on that. Just restricting payroll itself is akin to not having it be free.
Yeah.
But you had to do something to level the playing field, and
that's true.
They seem to have done it. So I'm happy for them. I asked Jack Degraw earlier on a segment what he thought of the Sanchez situation. He hasn't heard anything in terms of, is he getting better on the DL? What was the story? Was he being punished by being put on the DL? Maybe you can enlighten us a little bit.
I think it's a little bit of both, being punished and still not quite over his injury. I heard today he's doing light running, taking hitting drills, and supposedly he's supposed to fly back up to New York sometime this week. I think they're hoping to have him back by the end of August. But as of right now, they say he's running not at full speed, and he's also hitting off the tee and hasn't taken hitting drills. Whereas I heard Judge today, he's still feeling pain in his wrist. So that might mean he might be out a little bit longer than they expect. So they were hoping to have him back. It
wasn't the hamate bone, was it?
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was.
Okay, well, that could be 6 weeks, or if he has to be operated on. It isn't anything that's going to affect his abilities. It's an absolutely useless bone. As a matter of fact, the Giants have Sandoval, the catcher. He came up as a catcher, third baseman, and he had 2 hamate bone operations on each wrist. I think Griffey had it done. Could that be in store for Judge?
It very well could be. I know they were hoping to have him back in 3 weeks, and I think as long as he can play through the discomfort and maybe even a little pain, I think he should be back in 3 to 4 weeks. But I just don't like hearing that he's still in pain. He's not doing any baseball activities at this point.
Could linger. In which case, you got to say that puts them at a tremendous disadvantage with catching Boston. You got to hope that they stay within 4 or 5 games, get within 4 or 5 games, and stay within 4 or 5 games until they get the likes of Sanchez and Judge back.
Yeah, because they still have 6 games left with Boston. And Stanton right now has just been on fire. He hit his 28th home run tonight. And I think the home run traveled at 121 miles an hour, the fastest ball ever hit.
Ever recorded with the new technology.
But his 28th homer, and Aaron Hicks had another 2-run homer tonight. He has career high in home runs and RBIs. And Miguel Andujar, the rookie, he had a 2-run home run tonight. As long as the 2 young kids and Sanchez and even Hicks can help carry this lineup until Judge and Sanchez get back, you never know what can happen.
Yeah.
And J.A. Happ, the pitcher they got from Toronto, he pitched a great game tonight again, went 6 innings, only gave up 3 hits. I think he had double-digit strikeouts. And I really like Lance Lynn. He's a bulldog on the mound.
I know at one time you kept some statistics of how the pitching staff did with Sanchez and with Romine. I'm not imagining it. They seem to do better, ironically, and the power is needed, no question. But Romine seems to handle the staff better, and he seems to be better defensively. Sanchez is still young. He could develop, but you got to give Romine a lot of credit. You got to give Cashman a lot of credit for building a deep team.
Romine has a great rapport with all the pitchers, and Severino, he had that 4-game stretch where he was 1-2 with an ERA of 8.84, He had given up 33 hits in 19 innings, including 7 home runs. But in his last 2 starts, he's coming back to form, and so he's getting back to his old self. And even though Sonny Gray got moved to the bullpen, he was instrumental in helping the Yankees win in extra innings the other night by pitching 3 scoreless innings, giving up only 1 hit.
Now, there is a case that brings in something that's a social problem in this here country, and that's tweeting and the results of ignorant. I won't call people dumb. In this case, I'll call them ignorant, and it was something that was tweeted years ago, but not that many years ago. The guy, if you wonder, make statements like that, if you wonder where they come from, they don't just come from nowhere. He poo-poos them as having been young, and but he made some horrible homophobic, racist stuff came to light. And he wasn't the only one. There were some other ball players that made statements.
Milwaukee pitcher.
Yeah. It's going to be with him for the rest of his life, and the way communication is with the internet and Google this and Google that just like Ryan Braun throwing the tester under the bus.
Yeah.
That's going to be with him. Yeah. A lot of things, like as much as I think Barry Bonds and Clemens belong in the Hall of Fame at this point,
me too, yeah.
Because you have to compare players to each other in their era, and this was a tainted era. I could assume everybody was doing something. And, so, but as much as I believe he should be in the Hall of Fame, I'll always remember him as a punk who came out and said, brought his kid out in a dog and pony show, had a son, a young 12-year-old at the time, brought him with him, and he stood there in front of the cameras and said he had no idea about clear, he had no idea what he was putting into his body. What a joke that is. You're a world-class athlete, and you don't know every speckle of food, of supplements, of water, of this, that, and the other thing that goes into your body. Have a hard time believing that.
And Barry Bonds is a Hall of Famer with the Pirates before he became a member of the Giants, and then all of a sudden he just doubled and tripled in size.
Yeah. Well, when your head gets bigger, when your head size goes up a little bit, I think that's a pretty good giveaway. It's not, again, it's how these guys, when they're caught, how they react to it. Can anybody ever say in this world, not just sports, but in politics and business and in anything, entertainment business, can anybody say, Mr. Cosby, you were accused of this stuff, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I did that. I was wrong. It was horrible. I tried to make settlements with these people. I was just a mental, I was affected by show business. I was affected, one head was leading the other head, so to speak. But cop to it.
That's why I feel bad for Alex Rodriguez when MLB had that list of 120 players who failed a PED test. The only name that got leaked was Alex Rodriguez, but he stood up in front of his whole team, in front of the press, and admitted it, and he still wound up getting crucified.
There was a time, and I don't have total recall on this because it isn't a part of covering baseball and being a fan that I enjoy, so maybe I blocked it out. But there was a time when he didn't handle it.
No, he wound up screwing the pooch not too long after when he got caught again, and he denied it, and he went on Michael Francesca's show on New York Sports Radio Talk and just went off on a tirade. He didn't make himself look out to be too good, so he did hurt himself a couple of times putting his foot in his mouth.
Yeah, which, one thing about horse racing, they never interview the horse after the race, because nobody really gives a rat's ass what the horse has to say. I want to hear how the athlete, horse included, performed. Not the excuses, not the lies, not the cover ups, and but I'll say this too, right up there with Barry Bonds for the best player of our time has to be Rodriguez.
The numbers he's put up are amazing, and I wonder if he'll ever get into the Hall of Fame. I have a feeling Barry Bonds will get in before him, which he should.
They all should, yes.
Yeah.
But as far as character goes, you don't necessarily are heroes, not just in baseball, politics, and business. They all have clay feet for some reason. They all have flaws. Look at Trump's the people he's surrounded himself with.
Oh God! Don't even get me started.
The indictments that are coming out and what have you. What they need to do, they need to link it, and they need to make damn sure that Pence is included, because it's not going to do this country much good if you get rid of the first snake and the second snake, who is much more capable of getting his horrific ideology and agenda through Congress and passed, a guy like Pence, who would set back womanhood by more years than we can count. It would be back to the Dark Ages. And if any of you out there have sisters or cousins or daughters or whatever, think of them before you vote with your pocketbook, because you're being lied to about the economy anyway. The economy may be good, but not for the working person.
And after 5 years, those tax breaks they end for the people, the middle class and below. But for the people who actually have the money, those tax cuts are permanent. And who do you think is going to foot the bill? You know, in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, it's going to be the middle class.
Yeah, and if that's a little more complicated for the average Trumpite to get through their head, let me just mention a little something called the Earth and climate change and ecology and where we're going to go to live. And do we need a space war? Do we need to be putting billions of dollars into advancing, instead of working hand in hand with like we used to do with Russia, we'd have joint space ventures and what have you, learn from each other and save money that way. Do we need to be putting, when kids are starving, when kids don't have lunch, free lunches at school anymore, and Trump wants to take away Meals on Wheels from old folks and cut back Social Security, and have it, then you could have a parade for the guy, right? He spent $12 million on a parade that shows our might. Wow, we are so screwed and tattooed. It's really...
When I saw today, they showed you about Mike Pence talking about the Space Force, and I don't even know what to say or how to react when I hear that and see that. I mean, it's just it's ridiculous, you know.
That why is that? Is it just a diversion to the collusion with the Russians? Is that it? And I'll ask your opinion. Do you think Mueller's getting close? Are the dominoes going to fall?
Well, I talked. They had a lawyer on, and they said one of the things they're calling Trump a target of an investigation. but when they haven't interviewed him, he's more likely a suspect than a target. I think Mueller's been so tight-lipped that nothing's been leaking out, and I think he has something. And if he's going to wind up subpoenaing, giving Trump a subpoena, and he's going to get in trouble for obstruction of justice.
Right. I think it's going to come through his son. I think that's something. His son has already testified, and you can't go back on that. But Giuliani, his attorney, says things like, "I don't want him to testify because he'd be in danger of perjury."
Yeah, and
so just don't frickin' lie. Why don't you tell him that? If you don't lie, you won't be caught in perjury, okay? And that won't. That solves it. Tyko and Deininger solving world's problems and talking baseball at the same time.
And I remember Giuliani during 9/11, and I thought he did a great job, and I thought he was, all about justice and doing the right thing. And now when I see him on TV, I feel sorry for him. His legacy is shot. It's ruined. I mean, he's going out there making a fool of himself.
Yeah.
Talking about how collusion's not a crime. No, it's a synonym for conspiracy, which is a crime. It blows my mind.
And, treason's a crime, too. And if you conspire to fix an election with the Russians, who are our enemies to begin with, that's treasonous. I don't care what you say.
And Giuliani let it slip that there was a pre-meeting before the actual meeting. So he basically admitted that Trump knew there was a meeting.
That happened today?
It happened past weekend, I think, or the Friday before. But if I was Trump, I would get Giuliani off of TV.
Well, yeah. What can I tell you?
Yeah, and Bernie Sanders, I do hope he's because the climate change. I mean, the storms are going to get worse. The droughts are going to get worse. Fires.
No question about that. This guy going back on ETA stuff with pesticides and what have you, and he's a crazy mother, and he's going to get us all wasted. But I have to think good will overcome. Someone in the CIA, some rogue CIA Secret Service guy, something will come up to get us out of this, because we're too big to fail. All right. Hey, Robert, thanks for talking a little politics with me, as well as giving me a great insight as to the Yankees. And I'll catch up with you next week, and we'll talk some more. Are you still with me?
Can you hear me, Ralph?
Yeah, I can now, barely.
Okay. I never bought a new battery, so the phone's still a little iffy.
Okay, well, I know that. I never never plugged in the battery at the right time. I've never been able to go from one battery to another on a cell phone. It never seems to work.
I don't have my cell phone right now, and the phone I'm using, I've had it now for like 7 years, and it's time to buy a new cordless phone.
Does it have a little rotary dial thing like mine?
No, but I miss those phones. I love those phones.
Me too. All right, I had a princess, I must say, and she had a phone. All right, my friend, we will talk soon, and thank you again. If you're listening out there, I appreciate it. The show is New York Yankee Baseball, past, present, and future. The co-host, one of them, is Robert Deininger, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Ralph. Good night.
Good night. Good night, everybody. Be well.